special guest in the house, 49ers General Manager John Lynch, will be joining us shortly to talk about what's transpired over the last week. But, Joe, I'm going to put you in the analyst seat for a quick second. What have your impressions been of what's transpired on the first week of free agency?
Yeah, I think no matter who was on your personal wish list in free agency, you can't argue with the fact that the 49ers got better. They filled holes on defense, picked up a couple of starters, and then on both sides of the football, you have a few low-risk, high-reward moves that could pay huge dividends. And so there's a lot of names, and we'll go through them right now. But, again, there's some very interesting ones as well.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pull up the names, see what's gone down this past week. Starting off, 49ers in a trade got D Ford. 49ers are looking for a closer, hoping this is that guy. Quan Alexander, linebacker with the former Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jason Verrett, a guy who had some injuries, and when he's healthy, I feel like he's a top 20 cornerback. Jordan Matthews, David Mayo got depth at linebacker. Tevin Coleman has that familiarity with Kyle Shanahan, and just recently signed punter Justin Vogel, former Green Bay Packer punter. And let's talk about the returners as well. Some guys returning back to the 49ers. Franchise tagged Robbie Gould, Kyle Nelson returns back. Raheem Mostert, a guy who was really coming into his own last season before he was hurt with a forearm injury. Mark Nazacha, Mike Person, and defensive backs Anton Exum Jr. and Jimmy Ward.
Yeah, again, that's a lot of names right there. And you look at all those, I mean, a lot of potential starters there. You look at Jason Verrett, like you said, been injured, but at his best, he's a Pro Bowl caliber guy. So again, really intriguing names.
So before we get to the man of the hour, I think it's great we go behind the scenes, take a look at what's transpired right here this past week. John Lynch, welcome to 49ers Live, presented by Microsoft Surface. It's been a busy week for you. Have you had time to kind of calm down, let it all settle a little bit?
Not really. You know, when you say a week, gosh, it feels like it's been a month. So much has transpired, all those transactions, you know, been off on the road at a couple pro days. And so this time of year, things just kind of fly. And there's not enough hours in the day. But it's good. We're prepared, very thrilled with what we were able to do in free agency. I think first and foremost, we set out and we had a couple priorities. You know, that stack linebacker position, we had a hole there, and we needed to fill it with a dynamic player that we thought was a game changer. We settled in, and he continued to gain momentum. That's Quan Alexander. And you know, the more we watched him, the more we liked. We obviously knew that he was coming off an ACL injury. But we got comfortable with the medical part, and also got comfortable that, hey, we're going to wait as long as it takes until this is a long-term investment. He's doing very well in his rehab, but I think what stood out to us about Quan, he's a dynamic football player. He's a tone setter. You need tone setters on your defense, and I think he's a guy that when you watch him, when you talk to people who've played against him, when you talk to people who've played with him, he is exactly that. His play, his type of play, running all over the field, hitting people, getting the ball, it's contagious, and we need that. And then the edge position, and we were able to work a trade with Kansas City. We appreciate them and their willingness to talk and you know, and be able to come to an agreement. And we feel like we got one of the rare edge guys that is going to be a force in every game he plays in. Kiana used the word closer. That's what we've been looking for, a guy off the edge who is exactly that. And where's that help you? It helps you at the end of, on third downs, at the end of series. It helps you get off the field, at the end of halves, at the end of games. You need that guy who can put the other team away. And we feel like D's that part. And you know, you start to salivate when you think of D on the outside and the guys we have on the inside. After a while, there's nowhere for him to go. And that's what we want to continue to grow.
If you could, just take us inside the room, because we picture this hectic atmosphere where phones are ringing off the hook. You're talking with teams with trades. You're talking with agents about their free agents and their clients. And so what does it look like, all right? You and Parag and Adam Peters and Martin Mayhew, and then you've got coaches and you've got scouts, and there's so many cooks in the kitchen. And is it chaos? Is there a story that maybe kind of best summarizes that first 48-hour period of the new big year?
It's not chaos. There's just such a buildup where you can't do anything. And then finally you get unleashed in that negotiating period where you can talk to the agents and you can start to do that. But then when that time comes where, okay, now we can get on the phone with the player, and you know, there's a little bit of recruiting. It's something we've done very well, despite not having won the games that we expect to win yet. People want to be here, and so. But I believe that we have something that we believe strongly in that we can present to them. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's the guys you're going to be playing with, and they can start to see that why they're such an important piece to the puzzle, and they want to be a part of it. And I think we were fortunate. Obviously, D was a trade, but was extremely happy to be here. And then, but where it starts to get a little is guys maybe in the second 24 hours when a guy like Tevin Coleman, all of a sudden, who wasn't on our radar, we didn't really feel like we had to have a running back, but all of a sudden Tevin Coleman's out there. Yeah. Kyle's coached him. He's an explosive player who can help you in the run game and the pass game. And wow, he's still out there and available. You know what? Let's do this and try to find a way. And I think it's good teamwork. You know, our personnel, our coaching staff. And then Parag does a heck of a job, you know, keeping the ongoing talks and relationships up with the agents. We're always talking with those guys, and things like this, Tevin, come back to you. And that was a you know, a fortuitous signing for us. Something we didn't go into free agency on the radar, but an example of how you have to be fluid, and when opportunities present yourself, you got to be able to pounce.
Let's dive a little deeper into some of the fruits of your labor. And I want to go back to Quan Alexander. You were just talking about him. And let's go back actually to the press conference last week. And Kyle Shanahan saying there was a game where he didn't necessarily game plan for Quan Alexander. And that came back around to kind of bite him in the rear end because of the type of player he is. You talk about him flying across the field, but what specifically is it about his athletic profile that makes him the right fit for this team?
Well, you know, you just watch the highlights. He's all over the field. We feel real good about Fred Warner and where he's at. And Elijah Lee is a guy who asserted himself. You know, we were happy to re-sign Mark Nzacha, but you know, let's be honest. We had a void that we thought we had filled with Reuben Foster. Things transpired there, and we had a void there, and so that stinks. But you can't just sit there and pout. You got to say, okay, let's go do something. And we needed a dynamic football player at that position. It's a very critical position in our scheme, and you know, this became the guy. Quan became the guy that we wanted to be that guy. And like I said, it continued to gain momentum. The more we watched him, the more we liked. And there's a lot to like. And free agency is a little different. It's not like the draft process where you get to talk to these guys throughout the process. You got to kind of wait. And but you do your due diligence, you do your homework, and we all felt very good, and we're thrilled that we were able to come to an agreement with Quan.
When you look at how you're going to build your defense, that's those two positions of Mike and the Will, pretty interchangeable, just one wears the green dot. I mean, you look at Fred Warner and Quan Alexander, is that, when you put up your best case scenario, is that the combo that you want when you're building this thing?
Absolutely. It doesn't stop there. We filled it with some depth. A guy like David Mayo, who's a guy, frankly, I didn't know much about coming into this free agency period, but we started watching him on special teams, and then all of a sudden you put on the linebacker film, and it's really good. And so it goes beyond just those two players. But yes, with Fred and Quan, we really feel like we have a formidable group for years to come. They're both young players. Cool thing about Quan, I mean, Quan's played for quite a while, but he's a young dude. He came in early, so he's seasoned, and he's hungry. He's coming off that ACL, and he's hungry and ready to be a part of something special here.
Let's talk about one of the bigger trades that transpired this offseason, and that's getting Dee Ford. pass rushers, you use the word rare.
Yeah.
And that's true. They rarely become available, especially in the open market. You got him through a trade. Now, were you surprised to be able to get a player like him, especially coming off of a career year like he had?
Yeah, a little bit, because like you said, one thing I've learned in my stint in this job is that everyone covets those guys. I knew that, but they don't become available that often. They're usually re-signed or franchised, and D was falling into that boat. But I think what happened in Kansas City, they've done a tremendous job drafting Brett Veach in that group, and John Dorsey before him, and they've got a lot of talented players. You can't pay them all, and I think they've got guys all over that team that they had to pay, and so you start to say, well, someone's, and I think that's what they love D for. They just couldn't pay everybody, and so we were there. We started conversations at the combine, and we studied all kinds of different players, but then we said, you know what, D is the guy we want. He's got some rare qualities that we think will lend really well to any team, but our team specifically. And we revisited that with Brett Veach and the Chiefs, and we're able to turn something around really quick. And just so pumped to have him as a part of the Niners.
He might not be there yet, but do you feel like he has the capability of getting into the conversation with the best in the league in terms of the Von Millers, the Khalil Macks, the DeMarcus Lawrences? I mean, is he there yet, or is he on his way? What do you view his ceiling?
I think he would be. I think 2016 he had a double-digit sack season. It's beyond, though, the sacks. I think then the next year he was poised to have a really big year. He ran into some back issues and was out for most of that year, but then followed it up in 18 with a big season. He has some qualities. I'll put his first step right off the line of scrimmage, his get off, up there with anybody in the league, and that excites us, because when you start pulling tackles off the guys we have inside, now all of a sudden they can't be so inclined to hang, and hey, you got to watch 99, you got to watch 94, you got to watch 91. Now they're going to have 55s out here, and we're going to have to fly out to get him. And so you start to provide that, collectively we want to be a dominant group up front. We think we're starting to have the makings of that. Now they got to go do it, and we're fully aware of that.
We know you're on Twitter, but during that week of free agency, are you on Twitter? Are you checking your mentions? Because let me tell you, Twitter is a wild place.
Yeah.
Those first couple days of free agency. At any point, do you pull it up and look at your mentions of, John, go get this guy, get that guy. What are you doing? Yeah. Great move, terrible move. This is why. I mean, it's.
I try not to. I love the passion of our fans. I really do, and I love that they care so much about our team. But I picture myself. I don't think like Ozzie Newsome and Bill Belichick are looking at their mentions for where they should go, and so that's not my style either. And so I think we do a ton of due diligence. Like I said, I love when fans come up to me off the field and say, "Hey, man, go get this guy," and you can get into conversations. But we've got a plan. We stick to that plan. I love the passion of our fans. I try to get on Twitter every now and then just to let them know we care about them. But I'm probably much less on Twitter than when I first got here, and trying to build back, kind of saying, hey, here's what we're trying to build. It's a great way to communicate. But, you can, as you watch kids, our players, you can spend a lot of time on that. I don't have a lot of time, so I try not to be on Twitter. I know there's a lot of chatter, and I love that about our team, but no, I'm not on there all the time. So please forgive me if I'm not getting back to you on every request that you have. Hopefully we're answering a lot. We're happy with what we've done, and we hope the fans are as well. I know you guys always want more.
You might not be on Twitter as much, but you might be reading the minds of some fans, because a lot of fans are out there saying, hey, at John Lynch 49ers, we need a receiver. Yeah. We want a big-bodied receiver. And the 49ers delivered that, bringing in Jordan Matthews. He certainly has the size. He has the experience. But what makes him that right fit in Kyle Shanahan's office?
Yeah, we, Jordan, at the beginning of last year went to the Patriots, ended up pulling a hamstring, but went back to the Eagles, and I thought really reestablished his style of play. And you're right, it's a different body type than we have on our roster, and something we wanted to provide. But it's more than just the body type; it's the play. I think he fit because he's got tremendous flexibility. He can play that big slot, kind of be a bigger target inside. But we liked he can play all three receiver positions for us. He has that mental capacity, but more so, he has the ability, the skills. Very few guys can play all three positions. We think he provides that for us. You know, one of our new receiver coaches, Miles Austin, had played with Jordan, so they've got a good relationship. He spoke to the character of the young man. He fits those core values and checks a lot of those boxes of the type of player we want to bring in aside from the skills. So we thought it was a tremendous fit, and we brought him in, and we're excited to have him.
So is that almost like the plan is there is no plan in terms of get him reps at all three spots, see where he fits best, see where he competes best, and then let it play out as it is, as opposed to, hey, he's going to be our slot, or he's going to play outside to replace Pierre Garçon, or he's going to compete with Marquise Goodwin?
Well, there's certain guys who are an X, are an F, and a Z only, but we really like bringing in players, especially depth players, that can do everything. It just gives us tremendous flexibility, and Kyle does such a great job of finding, I think, creating, and through all kinds of stuff that happens before the snap ever happens, creating the matchups we like. We think Jordan's an interesting piece to put wherever we want them and succeed at all of those places. And so I think a really nice acquisition for us, and I know he's happy to be here.
Yeah, as our fans who are pounding the table for a wide receiver. You got one.
I know we've been talking about Twitter, and you said, you're going to do better at, acknowledging the fans. So we're going to do it right now. We have some Twitter questions.
All right.
I'm going to start off with @DataNiner. Does the team use data analytics as part of their player assessment to go with the tape? And if so, how has that evolved since you've become general manager?
Yeah, we do. We've got a tremendous team. They don't like the word analytics for some reason. They like research and development, R&D. So Kwesi and Demetrius do a tremendous job, and I think it's just another part of the process. They were in place when I got here, and I think the way Kyle and I think, the more variety of ways in which we can look at these prospects, whether it be in the college draft or in the pro side, the better. And then we find out Kwesi and Demetrius are extremely talented. We invite them in, and there's different ways in which we utilize them. We have profiles for what we like at each position, but historically there's tendencies and there's attributes that lend to each position. These guys have done a really nice job of identifying, hey, historically the receivers who have succeeded have these qualities to them. We've kind of tweaked those, and so it's another just kind of, I think, checks and balances. And then also, sometimes when you're at the end of the draft or free agency, height, weight, speed guys, and kind of the profiles that we have, give us a list of them. They give us a list of 30. We go through it, and you confirm, here's what we see on tape. Does it match with this? And so I think you'd be a fool not to be looking at those things. I think people are figuring out how to, for a while there was, that works in baseball, but this isn't as quantifiable. It's not like you have a batting average. It's not like you have RBIs. How do you equate analytics, research and development to football? I think we're all figuring that out, and our guys are doing a really nice job of it, and becoming more and more a part of the process. But we'll always trust our eyes with film. I mean, that's the ultimate test. What have these guys been able to do on the football field?
And so what happens, like you said, if it does contrast where the eye test doesn't meet what the analytics say? It's just make you go back and watch that tape and just make sure you're trusting what you're seeing. How do you bridge that gap?
Well, we take a look at short-term and long-term. I mean, one thing we know is that when we see it on the film, our scouts see it and we see it on the film, and then they also see it in their research and development, it's usually a pretty good likelihood that they're going to succeed. When there's a discrepancy, the percentages go down. So it's just, like I said, another form of checks and balances. All teams are starting to implement it. I think we had a good head start, and I do believe that we're using it very well.
All right, Sydney Niner has our next question. She wants to know, what do you see in the 49ers' current free safety group that enabled you to pass on a deep free safety free agency pool?
Well, we like our free safety group. I mean, I think first of all, you start. It was big for us to bring back Jimmy Ward, and I know that's a hot button item because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. We aren't blind to that. We understand that. There's a lot to like about Jimmy Ward, though, and what he brings. So, are we taking a gamble? Yes, but that's accounted for in our contract with him. Jimmy wanted to be here. We wanted to give him that opportunity to come back, and so that's as I said, we came to an agreement that worked for both sides. Aside from him, Adrian Colbert was a guy who, for whatever reason, didn't carry over that rookie season and then got hurt. But we felt like he was starting to play like the guy we saw his rookie season that we really thought was going to be our long-term answer at free safety. So he's very much in that conversation. I think people forget DJ Reed, who was a drafted player in the 5th round last year. He's got great versatility. And those guys remember on game day, we can only dress 53 players. A guy like DJ Reed who can play nickel, the nickel spot, can play free safety, and also play outside corner and be a punt and kick returner. He provides a lot of different options. And DJ, we see as a viable option there, as well as a lot of places. So we feel pretty good about our free safety depth. That's not saying that we're going to, Antoine Exum's a player. Remember Tart, Jaquaski has always had the ability to play either strong or free. So we think we're pretty well stocked there. That's not to say if an opportunity presents itself that we won't go there, but we feel pretty good about our free safety spot.
All right, I got another one for you. Coming from Doug Royce, he wants to know, what's been your biggest lesson from your first 2 drafts? And I'm going to take it a step further. I want to know, what's been your biggest lesson now heading into your 3rd season as general manager?
I think, I really adhere to a reality that, that Kyle talks a lot about to our team. You never stay the same. You're either getting better or you get worse. And throughout my life, I've tried to get better each and every day. And so I think there's some things that you can only learn through experiences, and we certainly have. I've done that personally, and we've done so as a group. I think we have a really good thing because going in terms of we work really well, and we've talked about this a lot as a personnel staff with the coaches, and we really respect each other's opinion. We like being around each other. We truly value and respect each other's opinion, and when you can do that, it's just kind of like the analytics we talk about. When they feel one way about a player and we feel another way, then we have healthy and vigorous debate to try to come to a solution. And I think when you've done that, you've vetted these guys so the more we can do with that, the better. I think, the lessons I've learned, my first couple of years, I felt like it was important to be around here. There was a lot going on in terms of setting our culture. Year 3, I'm able to get out a little bit more, and that's healthy to get to go to an Alabama and Ohio State because they crank players out every year. So for many reasons, obviously there's guys we're looking at that are part of this draft class, but you want to establish relationships that are going to carry forward for years to come. That's just good business, and I'm able to do that more. And so I think there's things you naturally, with time, get better, but we felt it was really important to build a strong foundation. And so I think you expand, you get better each and every day, and that's what we plan on doing. We feel like we are doing, and we're really excited about where we're going as an organization.
If you don't mind, before we let you go, you did just get done with some travel, going to Ohio State's Pro Day, going to Bama's Pro Day. What are you looking to get out of those? I mean, you've seen them at the Combine. You've got some of those players in the interview process, that 15 minutes at the Combine. You'll bring some of them when your 30 visits you get to bring here. So when you're there, are you talking to coaches? Are you watching the workouts? What are you trying to get from those guys? And you get to meet with them outside of the workouts. I mean, was this a successful week for you? What did you get out of this week?
Oh, it was. It's all of the above. First of all, those are 2 places where there's prospects all over. I mean, some of the guys who didn't play could make NFL rosters, and they're working out. The reality, a lot of guys aren't. The top guys aren't working out at these pro days anymore, and I understand there's reasons. So people then might say, well, why are you going? Well, there's a ton of players that are doing things. Some do just the positional drills. But I think the access, and a lot of these programs, and these 2 programs are outstanding at inviting you in and saying, hey, we can help each other. We can give them information about some of their young guys who are thinking about coming out, and they welcome us in. And I think it's good to be there, talk to coaches, talk to strength coaches, talk to people. I've always felt you talk to people that maybe these guys think can't ever do anything for them, and how did they treat those people? You can learn a lot, and so you get there, and then you have the opportunity, the rare opportunity with some of the guys that you're really thinking about up high to maybe spend some more time with them. And the more time you get with these guys, you don't get a lot of it. So any minute, any second that you get with them is a positive thing. And so it was a very productive week, and we'll continue to do that.
I feel like every minute, every second we get with you here is a positive thing. We thank you so much. We know you're a very, very busy person this time of year. So thanks for hanging out with us on the set of 49ers Live.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. And you guys have a great rest. I can't even talk. I'm so excited. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks for hanging out with us on the set of 49ers Live, presented by Microsoft Surface.